morning, everyone. Richard Miller here. Welcome to Never Not Here. And I really get a lot out of talking to people and just seeing what a dialogue will bring up. I guess you've seen it. And a lot of times in your normal day-to-day life, it doesn't happen that much with friends and relatives and stuff like that. You know, some of my relatives ask me, well, who was on your show? And I don't take it too seriously anymore because there's hundreds of shows there, and I don't think they've watched even one, you know, but they want to make small talk. So I'm not saying that our talk is so deep or not small talk, but anyhow, something about it is I find enjoyable, and if you're listening or if you're a fan, I suppose you find enjoyable too. So today we're speaking with somebody that's kind of like in the Never Not Here business, except it's called the Bridging Heaven and Earth business. And from Santa Barbara, California, please help me welcome Allan. So,
hi, Richard. Thank you.
So we have a kind of a similar MO that we listen to a lot of people, we talk to a lot of people, and somehow it strikes us. Also, as we're assuming or hoping that it strikes people that listen to our dialogues. Also, we're somehow enhanced by speaking to so many intelligent and so many experienced people. And that's kind of the luck of it, right?
You know, we feel really blessed to be able to be doing and really gifted to be doing what we're doing. So we feel really it's an honor to do the shows and to be, you know, done them for so many years.
When did you start? I started about 4 years ago.
You're a rookie.
Yeah, I know.
We've done 267 shows starting in 1995.
Holy wow,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, like it's a video journal of you and me, right? And we can see how we were, in your case, 10 years ago. But even me, 4 or 5 years ago, I was like totally different. And somebody could just say, look at that guy and say, who the heck is he?
We were older then. We're younger than that now.
Yeah, we're younger now, right?
Right.
I totally agree.
We're more timeless, that's for sure.
Right. So where was I in the 90s when you were starting your show? I don't even know. I mean, I was really a tense dude and trying to get something together and really pushing it really, really, really hard. And somehow, thank God, I gave that one up.
Really? But for the grace of God, you'd still be there.
No kidding. Even if I had a modicum of success, right, I would still be there, right? But somehow,
generally, the more success we have, the harder it is to leave. So it's tricky that way.
Right on, exactly. So I don't know what. I'm sure that even so many things have changed in your life. I mean, can you say a few of them, or what's your view now that, or you can't really say what your view is, maybe, but you could say what isn't there anymore.
You know, these are extraordinary times. So much is happening. So many new paradigms are being built. The old paradigms seem to be melting down to an extraordinarily intense degree, and it's creating a lot of shifting of almost everything on the planet. And these are very tricky, trying, growth, amazing, beautiful times we live in. It's a really, it gives us a tremendous opportunity to really serve the changes and serve the love and serve the oneness and serve that vibration of inclusion, the vibration of the infinite. And basically when we talk about the bridging shows, that's what we talk about, is that basically they're about putting out the vibration, no matter what the words are for the shows and what the particular guests spoke on the wheel or way they approach their life and their service. It's about bridging in the show itself, putting out the vibration of love and oneness and the infinite and inclusion.
Inclusion is such a beauty, you know, that we really don't know what that even means. But now here we are talking about so many things happening in the world. Here we are with trying to foment a revolution in Libya, and in a way, our nation is considering arming the rebels and creating a mass killing field there. And I don't know, that just like seems so old, you know, the no-fly zone and all that stuff is like. Sometimes it must take some real intense, you know, like exaggeration to really see the light and see that.
You know, it's just hard to say. I mean, you know, you wouldn't think the Berlin Wall would fall when it did. You wouldn't think that Egypt would change so radically in a couple of weeks, that somebody like Mubarak could be enticed, or whatever way you'd look at it, to leave after so many years in such a short amount of Earth time. I think that's how new paradigms are. You can't tell. They're nonlinear, and they're almost out of Earth time. They're about energetics, and when you hit a certain energetic point, like the story I'm sure you're familiar with, and probably most of your audience is familiar with, the 100th monkey.
Right.
And so when you hit a certain monkey, or a certain 87th monkey or 91st monkey, whatever monkey you hit, then a new paradigm forms, then a Berlin Wall falls, then a revolution happens in a lot of countries that haven't had any change in a long time. That a thing like Google or YouTube, or something like this, that we can be sitting here and Skype and the internet. I mean, that's a whole new paradigm of the way information and vibration and energy can reach everyone all over the world on the most secure servers on the planet for free, over and over again. I mean, it's just an extraordinary thing. And that was nonlinear. I mean, nobody before the internet came along, nobody before YouTube and Google came along could have imagined what it was like and the impact of it. And I think that's why sometimes we see things in linear ways, but life doesn't always manifest in linear ways. And that's what new paradigms are. They kind of pop up out of nowhere. I think we're going to start to see more and more of that in terms of how we deal with each other on almost every level. It's not that the bank buildings are bad. It's just that at the heart of banking, at the heart of insurance, at the heart of energy production, at the heart of all institutions now, or all major institutions pretty much, it's about greed and fear and all those kind of negative aspects, rather than about love and connection and service and the infinite and unconditional love and all those types of experiences that would change not the bank building, but would change everything about the way the bank and the healthcare companies and the oil companies and the it would change everything. So that's basically what I see, and we've talked about this before, Richard, that our job, our service, is to just keep putting out that energy of the infinite, of inclusion, of unconditional love, and over again, and that kind of raises the energetics, kind of raises the energy level. And then as we raise the energy level, everything starts to change. So was it your 4 years of doing your incredible internet Skype shows, or Bridging's 15 years, or all the psychics and healers doing all their stuff for all these years? Did that result in Egypt happening? And who knows? But cumulatively, that's what did happen, and that's how things could happen that you couldn't imagine happening the day before they happened.
Somehow, I like to go back to what we were saying a few minutes ago and say, like, okay, these paradigm shifts, somehow we're able to buffer them too, so that we don't really get what they are. In other words, we see them in a one-sided way. Okay, let's say Berlin Wall fell and the whole Eastern Europe was released, and so on and so on. And we interpret it as finally those guys saw the light, and finally they're free like us, And so our paradigm didn't shift, really. And we're saying their paradigm shifted. And so then we really didn't get it. I don't think
it always
really
depends.
Yeah? So we were able to talk our way out of it, really.
You can't really talk your way out of it, because it's like energy, and as the energy rises, it's like water rising. Everybody gets wet, and everything on this planet is so small and everything's so disconnected, really, that we don't always realize it. But if it's happening in Egypt, it's happening to you. It's happening in Chicago. It's happening in Santa Barbara, California. It's just happening. If it's happening in Japan with the, the trifecta that they're dealing with, it's happening to you. It's happening to me. It's happening to everyone. And there's no getting around that. It just looks like in a linear way that you're not as affected, but clearly you are as affected because, what did the Berlin Wall do for you? In terms of you getting out of, like you started out this interview with this discussion, that you were in an uptight way, and then all of a sudden you weren't so much, and you had to get out, and you had to change your life. And it's because of that. It's because the Berlin Wall fell. It's because of all the things that went before you.
Well, it was totally perplexing for me because I was living in Italy during the time when that fell, and then on one side that the whole common market was just struggling to get together and to drop the border, the tariffs it used to be that trucks, every time they changed nation, trucks would have to stop and line up, and they would have to go through customs, basically, on every nation. It was just hell to ship stuff around, and we shipped stuff in Europe, and not before the Berlin Wall, but I'm saying before, when the common market was struggling to get together. Okay, then Russia blew apart, right? Because Soviet Union did, and the Berlin Wall fell. And then at the same time, the Yugoslavian war was kicking off. I was living right there in Italy, right next to Croatia. Not that I wasn't in Trieste.
It's funny you say that because my girlfriend, my beloved, is from Croatia. And she got out around the same time. She didn't want to stay there during she said the war was horrible. I mean, I was back there last summer, and you could still see bombed out places.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew Croatians. I didn't know too many Bosnians or other people, but they were so perplexed. They said we were all friends all during school. We used to go out at night and play our guitars and sing on the beach, and they had a kind of a real tight solidarity, and everybody was included. And then somehow it all blew apart, and some mysterious ancient hate came out and started I don't know what,
It happens all the time with these ethnic cleansing. All of a sudden your next door neighbor is your enemy. I mean, that's how crazy it is. That's how delusional and illusional it is. And that's, part of what we have to, with our services is to heal that, to heal the heart, to get to the root, to heal the root. You're never going to be able to heal enough of the leaves, the Bosnians and their ethnic cleansings, Darfur and all over Africa and, everywhere there's ethnic cleansing. And there's no way to heal it one at a time. You have to deal with it one at a time because that's the way it is on Earth. But if you don't heal the root, you're going to consistently have those kind of issues because fear and hate bring those issues out. And like you say, someone who is your friend and you're singing on the beach a week before, or you're their next door neighbor, all of a sudden you're raping them. I mean, it's like, how did this happen? That's how crazy these old paradigms are. That's how crazy that feeling of separation from each other and from ourselves and from the love and from God and from the oneness. That's what the result is. I mean, you're seeing what the result of the experience of separation is. And that's what all these crazinesses are, all these wars and no-fly zones and ethnic cleansings and rapes and, just all these horrors are really have a cause. And the cause is that we don't experience our own divinity, our own connection, our own oneness, our own inclusiveness, our own infinite quality. And until we do that as a species, then we're going to have, one ethnic cleansing after another, as we've had. And that's, what the service of your show is, and Bridging Heaven and Earth is, and the Bridging Heaven and Earth International Healing Art Project, and, so many others that about, that you've interviewed, that we've interviewed, and, that you read on the internet, the people doing these extraordinary things. They have YouTube channels, they have, great internet presences, they have all kinds of workshops and books and CDs and videos. And all that is raising that energy, is healing the heart, is healing the root. And that's why you're seeing so much change happening so fast. And that's, partly this time is made for that. It was been predicted for thousands of years. The whole 2012 issue and the whole end times. But really, it's in a way, it's the end times of the old paradigms, the end times of all that craziness, and that's the period we're in now, and that's why it's so exciting.
In one way, I kind of totally get you that you say with consciousness is like rising water and everybody gets wet. So I kind of get that part. And then the other part is that we're also living in a story, and that story is sometimes beautiful, sometimes brutal. And we have a part in that story too. So then whether we should just be hands off of that story and work on raising the water level, or,
well, I think
I just want to say this though, that I think some spiritual people kind of retire from what's going on and just say, I can work on this on an internal level. And I wonder if, just as an example, I never thought Mubarak was even, I was totally unconscious. I didn't think he was they always spin him as like a friend, because he makes stability in the Middle East, because he didn't threaten Israel or I don't know what, So I was just totally unconscious to what kind of a regime he was running over there. And I've even been in Egypt several times. And so then I would say that we're just not, it's so easy to step back and say, well, I'm making a kind of like a spiritual connection, and I know that'll spill over on my neighbor even close and far. But I wonder if that could be some kind of an isolation tactic.
It's hard to say, but, if someone's really putting out a pure energy, a vibration of that, what we're talking about, that infinite, that inclusion, that unconditional love from a cave in the Himalayas or Afghanistan or anywhere, or, Colorado, are they doing more than your, 4 years of radio shows or internet, blog shows or bridging's 265? Because energetics are different. So maybe that person, that's their service. It's hard to tell what somebody's service is. So is it more valuable if you have 400 million hits in a day, or is it more valuable to putting out the purest, cleanest, most loving, most unconditional love energy? So it's really hard to say. I think for each individual, you want to experience what your service is and be in tune with that and let everybody do their service. It's hard to say. It's hard to say from the outside. It's kind of like, you see two people helping a blind person across the street. And from the middle, from you watching it, all the actions look exactly the same from the middle, from watching that whole set of events happening. But one person was helping the blind person across the street to get him in an alley to rob him, and the other person was helping him across the street to help him. So when you're watching it from the middle, it's tricky to say what the hell's going on there. But the truth be told, someone in a more sensitive state can see the energetics of it, can see the vibration of it, and know someone's intent wasn't as pure as the other person's intent. So really, it's just for us to get more clear and more sincere and more humble and more open and more available and more surrendered. So we are more in tune. So we are more in tune with the energy and the vibration of things rather than the external, what it looks like. Because it's just hard to say. It's like you can't judge a book by its cover. And the same way, if someone's spending a lot of time meditating and not really involved in activity, for that period of time for them, that might be the highest service and the most they can do.
No, I agree. I agree that it could be the highest service and the most that they could do. But I wonder. I bet you if you come down in a cave, then your meditation will all leave in a jiffy. In other words, I'm not just a negative viewer in that, but I'm not trying to give too much to. There's so much testimony.
I'd say it's tough to say.
There's so much testimony of people that have, for 40 years, have meditated, but then they hold it that was the meditation room. But when I get out of my meditation, then I'm in the real world, and so that means it doesn't carry over. And so then something about it is an escape. But I've experienced just meditation in some of the most intense situations, and everything just kind of just quieted down. I mean, and there was the rumble of the noise and the urgency, the seeming urgency, but then there was a centeredness that was actually functioning in life too, and not just it's I think it's a bigger contribution in what I'm saying is to model the fact that centeredness can work anywhere, and not
I would
just
say I agree.
model
I agree.
that it only can work in isolations. And maybe you can go into isolate. It's like, okay, there's a cycle. I mean, the cycle of the seasons, the cycle of the moon. There's a cycle of waning and waxing, let's say, that things grow and then things seem to go stagnant or dormant. And then that's probably part of life, so that there would be a time of quietness and regeneration. I don't deny that. I don't think we should always be going full bore. But I think the greatest contribution should be both, not only just some kind of intuition or interior stillness, but also get involved too.
There are a lot of flowers in the garden.
Yes.
I really wouldn't, and plus you're talking about time and space, and in an infinite time and an infinite space, which is really what the spirit lives in. It's harder to say if someone in this lifetime has chosen to be in that cave and not come out, and that's their really pure and really clean service and the best they could be doing. And that's why it clears so much space in a way for you and me to be so active, and a lot of other people. But it's not necessarily for everybody. Not That's the same way a certain soil isn't right for every flower or every plant.
Right. No, I get that.
So I think you have to be really careful or conscious about judging other people's activities, because it's just, as I've seen so many times in my life, it's just really hard to say. And I know a lot of people look at bridging or look at me or looking and they have a lot of concepts about certain ways or certain experiences that are not really accurate. Remember, every opinion you have is like cutting a piece of the infinite out. And there's the story before it and a story after it. So it's like there's always 3 dots before everything you think or say. So, the less we can have opinions, the less we can have concepts. It frees us. It empties the weight out of our backpack, and then we're not so bent over and available for the world to do what it does. I mean, I think when you talk about enlightenment or ascension, it's basically becoming empty of all our ideas and concepts, not only about ourselves but about everyone else. And we have this saying we use a lot around here, that whatever you think you are, you're more. So at some point you don't have to think of yourself as anything. You're not the type of person who wears a tie or wears glasses or doesn't wear glasses. That's just little petty stuff. What you are is this infinite, vast, glorious being. On the opening page, I think you've probably been there at some point, of the Bridging Heaven and Earth website, it says, "We are all made of love. God is love, and we are God." So in essence, when we experience ourselves as the story goes, Jesus did, the Father and I are one, the Goddess and I are one. I mean, that is an experience that someone could have that would transcend that and would give us a different viewpoint. So at each point, as we rise out of the maze looks different. The maze feels different. We're more subject to the walls of the maze the lower we are on it, just using upper and lower as metaphorically. But the higher we are above the maze, the more easy is it for us to navigate it. And then it's everybody looks like an ant. Everybody is so small in that way, so we're less apt to have a concept about almost anything, including ourselves, including other people, because now we're more in the moment. In the moment, there's no room for that. See, once we get an identity and we go into the past and the future and all our concepts, we're not really living in the moment. So the important thing for us is, how do we be here now? I mean, I think in spiritual terms, that's really That's really the question we want to know, and it's the one that's been asked for thousands of years. How do we get in the moment? How do we be here now? How does Richard stop being Richard and just
Maybe,
be like,
what comes to me is maybe the maze is our thoughts or beliefs. And so then as those things thin out, then the walls of the maze, we can start to see through them, and we don't really have to get above it or below it, but just they just kind of disintegrate.
that's a fine metaphor as well. It's just, how do they disintegrate? As long as there's a Richard and an Allan and all the ways we identify and we believe in them. I mean, I know what it says on my birth certificate. I know where I was born. I know who my parents are. But more than that is I've experienced myself as the infinite. I've experienced myself as unconditional love. I've experienced myself as the Father, as the God, as Goddess. So in that sense, it's just on the Bridging website, we have bios of a lot of people, and we put bios down. And when it came to put mine down, I said, just put Allan is in 3 dots, because why would you define me? Why would I want to define myself? I mean, clearly, I was born this year. I went to this school. I, live in this house. I mean, it's not like you forget that. It's like you stumble around like a lunatic without any identity. But that's not what is the real main. And that's what one of the things that meditation has the potential to do, is that in that meditation, in the quietness of that time, without a lot of the busyness around, you're able to more distinctly experience yourself as that unconditional love, as the oneness, as pure consciousness. And the more you can experience that, you realize that's more of what you are than the Richard with all the stuff on your resume and what clothes you like to wear. I mean, you and I are the same, but you're in a like a regular type shirt and a tie, and I'm in some sweat kind of thing, and but that's all irrelevant in the depth of who we really are, in the depth of our connection. So the more we can experience that internally, the more we take that out in the world. If our destiny is to take it out in the world, if our destiny is to have it in the cave or the closet or whatever, and vibrate that out, or write a book and never go out. It's hard to say, but what really we want to do is feel love and share it. We want to be and experience ourselves really, just to use words, as love in motion. I mean, what we're talking about, Richard, and you do a talk show, and Bridging is a talk show. So here we are doing words about something that's wordless, about something that's a vibration, that's an experience. But that's the nature of it. That's what happens on the bridge between heaven and earth. That's what happens as the new paradigms form. We're using words to describe the unwordable, the undescribable, the infinite, God.
Well, some words are distinctions and seem to take form. They're kind of like a plastic that solidifies. Some words seem to say, "Oh, this is the way it is," and other words seem to kind of dissolve. Saying, "Oh, this is not the way it is," and doesn't replace itself with anything necessarily. So, this is not the way it is. What I used to think is not the way it is, and without replacing that, that just sort of gets weaker, or sort of gets thinner, or sort of gets less believed in, or gets less important. The way I speak or the way I describe things is less important. And so then those words thin out, and they're plastic, and they go to nothing more, and they don't really go to a solid form. And so then on our show, I don't like too many distinctions, like to say even to say this is the whole world's energy, or what do I know, or that people are okay in a cave or not okay in a cave. I don't even know that, Let me ask this. This might be a good question, because, okay, you're heading for many years of working on your project, and maybe moving toward 300 shows and talk to so many people. And there's no way you could possibly agree with them all, right? And and so then I'm actually taking a lot from watching a couple of your shows, because you're very, even if I can't imagine you agree with everyone, you don't filter those people, like only the ones that you agree with you put on. You probably, me too. I try to take a sample of it. Anyone that wants to talk, basically. And so what I'm suggesting or what I'm saying is that I used to be in a position where I'd always like to put my 2 cents in on everything they said, and say, well, how about, maybe I should twist it this way or that way. I don't really go for that. And I'm getting to be more easy with myself and just allowing people to express themselves. And I notice that you're very good at that, just allowing people to express themselves. And I'm supposing you're not agreeing with everything everybody says. So then how do you feel that ease within yourself?
Well, first of all, the show has almost an identity and and a protection of itself. So we've seen over the years that people who are not supposed to be on the bridging show, which is on every show you'll see on the opening and closing credits, I think, and it's just that's basically our undertaking and our service and our destiny is dedicated to the oneness. So for that hour, the important thing is not so much what they say, but is the vibration they're putting out more or less, at this time, in history, in this time and space of timelessness and spacelessness, are they vibrating? Are they putting out an energy of that dedicated to the oneness, of that inclusion, of that infinite? So what they say is almost irrelevant to me, because the words of it, there's no theory that's accurate, really. There's no theory that's completely accurate. And we talk about them as spokes on the wheel. So as long as those spokes on the wheel aim and generally hit the center is where we all want to go to. People don't really care once they get there. It's like the story, once you take the boat across to the island, and then when you get there, you send the boat back. And all these paths, Buddhist, Christian, Muhammad, all the spiritual paths, Judaism, whatever, it doesn't really matter. What you want to do is get to the center. You want to get to the heart. You want to get to that experience over and over again of the oneness. And then whatever tradition you use, whatever path you've used, whatever techniques or meditation tools you've used, that's fine. Send them back. That's not the important thing. So for bridging, the people on the show, we want to have, as best as possible, to have that energy, that vibration, to be putting that out, so that when people are watching the show, the feeling they're getting is that they're included, is that they're infinite, that they're made of love, and that there's no separation between them and any animal and any other being on the planet, and all the things that we see as separation, the different colors, the different heights, the different weights, the different religions, the different sexual preferences, are all in the light of that experience of the infinite, of that oneness, is minuscule and doesn't really matter.
Somehow that door to oneness is right here.
It can only be in this moment. That's why being in the moment, being not in the past and not in the future, not being in your mind. The mind doesn't have an avenue, just to use, words and terms. It's the heart, it's the intuition that lives in the moment, the spirit. So what we want to do is get back to that spirit, that intuition, that internal knowing. And then the tool we have called mind is the thing that could, tell us how to turn the computer on and all that stuff. And, 5 times 5 is 25 and all that. But it's not ruling the roost. It's like a tool that we can take out. Now the mind is just berserk, and the mind is the thing that, to just use that term mind as the thing that separates us. What we want to do is get to the thing that we experience ourselves as one, as every sentient being, every part of the energetics of this whole universe is what we are. And once we start separating out, then there are ethnic cleansings, then there are wars, then there's fly zones and no fly zones, and different races and religions and different spiritual paths, one that's better than the other. But once you experience yourself as that infinite, as that inclusion, then those things, like you were saying before, start to fade away, and they have less and less meaning and less significance in your life. And then you start to be more what you really want to be, is just that you're like this love being. You just feel love and share it. You're love in motion. And that to use words, that's really what humans' capabilities are, and that's what they want. And once that starts to happen to more and more people, you'll see all the institutions changing, because they'll be about service and connection and helpfulness and tolerance, and that the institutions are there not for any other reason than to serve the people, to serve love in its fullness. So I think that's the period we're in now, and that's what all your shows are about, more or less, and that's what all bridging shows are about, more or less, and that's what I mean, you've seen enough of the shows to know that basically, the Harold Beckers of the world, the Gloria Wendroffs, the Michael Tamoras, the Michael Beckwiths, the Carl Kaliman. I mean, basically, that's what they see their service is to serve the love, is to raise that vibration, is to bring that feeling of inclusion, of the infinite, of unconditional love out more and more, to raise that level, to raise that water level. And then once that water level raises, it's like a tsunami of love. And we know what tsunamis can do and how they could devastate, but a tsunami of love can also have that powerful effect. And that's when you'll see, things like Egypt happening and Libya happening. But in the third dimension and on the bridge between heaven and earth, it's not always that smooth. And I think that's the period we're in now. But as we raise the level, it's going to be easier and easier and easier, because there'll be more of the energy experience, the realization of the energy of unconditional love, rather than fear and separation. So, I mean, the way I look at it is that's what our service, that's what our job, that's why we're here, that's what our destiny is to put that out, unrelentingly, over and over and over and over and over and over again, until, for some reason we don't. Whatever
repetition
happens.
is weird, Repetition is so weird, because I mean, I guess if you say things enough, somebody's going to take it as true, right? But I mean, that's not really what happens. What happens is sometimes you say it's just here, it's just right here, it's just this. And then some people click, some people click with that. But I think that thousands don't when one does. I mean, the raw repetition, I'm always trying to model the words and make them fresh every time. Just a minute ago, I said the doorway, I said something about a doorway to oneness is here, right now. But that's wrong, it's not really a doorway, but somehow if our attention can just fall on our life as it unfolds in each moment of it, that's very enlivening and also very insightful. And normally our attention falls on a description of what's here, or like an interpretation of what's here, or like a word called oneness, or a word called energy, and so then what I would like to start to do, and also with all kinds of different audiences, not only seeker audiences, but just to see what the barriers are to just allowing our attention to be right here in this moment. And, you can take that as a saying and say that's a good thing, and let's just keep saying that over and over again. But I don't even mean the saying, or I don't mean the words. I just mean the act of it. And I don't know, I suppose that's what they call by satsang and all that, where people just kind of sit and feel themselves, or, I don't know, just life in a way is a exploration. Life in a way, somebody said life is a science project, you've been given this science project called Allan, and you can look into say, well, what makes this guy tick, and not go in a way when you're doing, just feel it and see it, not necessarily say it. And so then I don't know, I'm just getting tired and worn out of saying oneness, or saying energy, or saying consciousness, or saying these things, which I see so many people. That's another thing about my show, because I used to do live webcasts and invite people in to do call-ins. And I had hundreds of call-ins, and I watched their questions and stuff. And even the same people would call in on different shows once they got the hang of how to call in. And they'd ask the same question to every teacher. And so then I thought, well, that answer was no good, because it didn't do anything. I mean, the person just had the same question cooking, and their attention was on that question, and not the pointing was probably leave that question, and just be with yourself, be in this moment. And I don't know, does everything unfold from that? I mean, you can say it does and believe that there's some magic that happens when you're in consciousness. Or you can just, I don't know, just live this life. What do you have many people like that come on?
Ask the question again.
Well, I mean, I'm almost wanting to fight distinctions. Like, there's too damn many distinctions in spirituality. And that really, the distinctions are all a part of the maze. And maybe, is there a way to thin out those distinctions, or just kind of see them for what they are, that they're just kind of like trying to feel secure with something? In other words, we say if we know something, then we actually can feel better. But I mean, I'm not so sure if it's not an ersatz better, a false sense of security, and maybe what we really need is vulnerability, and being able to feel our hurts, because if we blank out our hurts, we can't really feel our love either. And then that love is just a concept. Somehow we have to be feeling beings in addition to, speaking beings. And I don't even think, I'm not so sure that that's as simple as that either, that you could just say, okay, there's thinking and then there's feeling. I mean, there's a totality that's missing when we focus on any one kind of part. And most of it comes from giving too much credence and too much importance to description, I believe. I don't know. How do you like that?
I think we've talked a lot about that. We use words, just because we do at this point. And whether we can get to a point where we have, mental telepathy, or we don't need, or we can feel vibration and we don't really need words. I mean, maybe we're coming to that. But clearly, just to use the metaphor, bridging heaven and earth, in the earth part, there are a lot of words, and the words have meanings to people. And then clearly we're on the bridge now, let's say metaphorically, and on the bridge, there's maybe less words, or different words, or more expansive words, but there are still words, and maybe that's necessary to, calm the mind, because the mind can't take silence at this point on a global basis, or for a lot of people. So words are still used for that, but I think that more importantly, and what, like I was describing before about bridging, is that we try to, whatever the words are, we try to have an energy and a vibration, because there is an energy and a vibration behind words. I mean, like we were talking before about the pickpocket who helps the person across the street, as opposed to someone who's really trying to help them, or that somebody uses a word like oneness and has a certain meaning to it, as opposed to somebody else. But that's why the vibration and the energy of the person is so important, because when they are waiting in line at the Safeway or whatever, Albertsons, they're vibrating something. That's why the person in the cave is so important, because their being is like a tuning fork. And if the tuning fork is out of balance, is disharmonious, it's gonna vibrate at a non-harmonious frequency. So
right. Okay. Well, I think you can really simplify that, because I used to say that a lot, and I'd hear a lot of people say that, and you think it's kind of maybe more complicated than it is, because you think all these different vibrations, and you call them levels and stuff like that, and higher and thinner and finer and refined and all these kind of words that really don't try to get it. But I've listened to two men that speak in a kind of a real simplified way, and even from a year or more ago. And they say, like, there's two basic things your body will do, you know, and I'll just do it. He says, wow or ow, you know. And so, like, you can notice that there's actually two things that your cells do, you know. They're either saying, okay, nourish me, you know, take in, you know, or they're saying, oh, invaders, you know, call up the defense system here, call our immune system out. And so then it's basically, that's really simple, because that's basically anxiety, you know. This is a tough place to live, you know, and I've been abused as a child and all kinds of anxious things. Or like, wow, there's my grandson, is he cool? You know, look, he said goo, you know, he almost took one step or something like that. So then there's basically these two things, see. And lately we've been kind of just trying to distill it down to that simplicity. You can really notice, and almost the whole, if you're reading the news or looking at what's going on, almost the whole world's, they have a call to action, which is called anxiety-based. It's called stress. And that this is, you know, and everything we know about the world is kind of like prioritized. And the most stressful ones are where they're shooting, right? And then we got to do something, or global warming, or energy crisis, or tsunami, or something like that. And then there's all the ones in between, like unemployment, or you know, not treating women right, or things that have been going on a long time. We can put them down lower. But I'm just saying that almost we can notice in ourselves that our call to action is like, oh, I got to pay the rent. Oh gosh, or I got a ticket in my car. I went too fast, or, you know, there's so much anxiety in life, and maybe just to clear out that anxiety would, you know, and then work out of contentment and interest and joy. And, you know, you can't really fake it, but I mean, you can notice that's an old paradigm. Anxiety and stress is an old paradigm, and maybe that's enough just to kind of change the vibration. And maybe that's the vibration everyone's talking about.
Not feeling stress could certainly be a start. That's for sure. You know, and then the question is how. You know, then, okay, go ahead. Tell me how you do that, Richard.
Okay, so then you can notice that what really we react to is our interpretation or our story about something, and not the something itself. You know, I mean, and you can notice that in your own life by telling a new story on certain things. You know, there's so many different things, because there's like, there's relationships and family, there's work, there's health, there's, you know, beliefs, and there's justice and injustice. There's so many different categories, and some of them you feel real tight about, you know. Okay, the right, you know, what do they call it? The conservative right, you know, they're really into justice, you know. It's not right this way, you know, we should be more free. The government's heavy on us, you know. And then, or maybe if we got cancer or something, we're really tight about health and scared and stuff like that. And we can't really start to tell a new story. Oh, well, maybe that cancer is good for me. We can't tell that. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm saying somewhere in life you could maybe just say, okay, my uncle was really a bum to me, you know, 30 years ago. You could probably tell another story about that, or your parents have mistreated you somehow, and you could say, well, you know, their parents mistreated them too. And so then that was all they knew, and they were doing the best they could, and they thought they were preparing me somehow to make me tough, that I'd be a tough dude, that I would be able to encounter all the roughness of the world that they knew, you know. And so then I could start to forgive them, because, I mean, they were in the same bind that I feel I'm in now. And then that's a new story that can relieve a lot of stress and relieve a lot of resentment, right? And so then you can just look around your life and find some places that are not so, you know, where you're not so tight, you know. And so then you can actually try a few different stories, you know. I mean, okay, here's one for you. Like, a lot of people are telling a story about Monsanto, that's saying that they got the Roundup Ready canola, and they're trying to take over the whole seed market, you know, because this pollen goes everywhere, and then they're saying, oh, you got my patented seeds, and so you can't save seeds out of it, you know. And I don't know if you know that story, but I mean, in a way, that's a story of injustice, and like somebody's trying to take the life of the world and own it. And but in another way, you could tell another story about it, that they're doing an incredible research by following all the GMOs that they claim are theirs. They're doing incredible research to find out how pollen is not containable, and nobody else would do that, you know. And they're actually proving that this is a dangerous thing to let these new GMOs out of the box, because they're proving that. Maybe that's too complicated of an example, but I'm saying that what they're doing could have another story. And then farmers could say, well, that's really cool. Let's just start to use the proof that they've proven that GMOs get everywhere. And once you release something, it's out and it takes over the world, a new species. Even, I mean, didn't they bring some kind of wolves or something to Australia to get the rabbits? And now that's a huge problem. Things that are released in this atmosphere should be thought of many times before it's done, so that, I mean, maybe GMOs could be banned totally, but or it could, you know, it would be another way to look at it, or a deepening of our consciousness. And so that's what I'm suggesting anyhow, is that we react to our story, not to any reality. And that's where our anxiety comes from. And then maybe that's I'd like to discover that myself, or otherwise have people on that work like that. I think you and I can discover things ourselves too, because we've heard so much, and we can aim for the betterment of the world in a way, and not just kind of drift with it, with what's going on. And I want to restructure the language, or re-language spirituality, because it seems like it's got such a narrow footprint. And then so many people, we could say they're greedy, we could say that they're self-centered, but somehow the system, there's a reward for that. And when you're in a certain kind of a hamster cage, you run on that kind of a wheel, you know. So then we were talking about bankers being greedy and stuff like that. But that's how their system works, you know. That's where they're rewarded for their quarterly returns and for having, you know, short-term vision. You and I could look into, you know, broader sections of what we could call sustainability. In other words, how could it be that every segment of the earth, whatever they touch, you know, whether it's peoples, whether it's markets, whether it's environment, whatever we touch, we should leave it in better shape than when we found it. And that's kind of like a broad definition of sustainability. And okay, well, maybe it takes consciousness to do that. Somehow we have to become more aware and become wider as a human being. But I mean, we could have a credo like that. It's really interesting that you know, we've been gifted with these audiences. Basically, we've been gifted. You and I have been gifted with a lot of people's ears, because they like, you know, they like to hear things that are maybe they can't have this type of a discussion in their small town or their small community or their small, and we have this gift of these ears, and somehow it's a beautiful and wonderful responsibility, I feel, that somehow we can maybe put our real best into putting a stream of life affirmation into the airwaves, the internet waves, and just it's not really positive, or it's not really the law of attraction or anything like that. I don't know. It's just like, it's the choice that we can affirm life and affirm our species, and I'm totally thrilled by it.
I think it's a beautiful time as well. There's a lot of opportunity. There are a lot of blessings. There's a lot of extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I think, you know, we're in a very beautiful position to allow kind of the, you know, the avenues that we've built up, your show and the Bridging Show, that amplifies all these people's vibrations and energies and messages. And the more and more that those energies and vibrations and messages of love and connection and oneness are out there, the more everything is going to change. And the more that the institutions and all the people involved with them will be more motivated by an inner desire and an external desire to be of service, to want to be part of a of a loving world, not a separate world, not a finite world, not a world of exclusion. We've had enough of exclusion. People want to feel included. They want to feel part of everything, and they are. And that's the delusion here, is that we're not. That's the illusion here, that we are separate, that we aren't all connected by that, by who we really are. So I think that, you know, the real key is for all of us as a species, or as many as possible, to come into alignment with who they really are. And when that happens, everything changes. And it's simple from there. And at a certain point, that would be your focus, is to heal the root, to heal the heart, to bring things, a realization of our connection, of our alignment, of our oneness back into people's conscious realization.
That takes me right back to when we were talking about words. And that's something that I just stumbled upon some months ago, and I've said a few times on the show, but and you're saying that we're living in an illusion of separation. And so that is, turns out that the Western languages, or the Cartesian languages, the Latin languages, Romance languages, are loaded with every type of a word has a thing component to it, or a noun component to it, where we think in nouns. And so we think that that even concepts are real things. And so then naturally that everything is separate then, And I ran into this when I was reading about Buddhism, and it said that really what's been transmitted to us from Buddhism is mostly Chinese writings, and because there was no really writings when Buddha was alive, and in Chinese there's not really any parts of speech, and so then the whole idea that everything is a thing, and that the world is out there and it's all these things. And we just have that in our blood in a way, because we speak English or French or German or Italian. These words, these languages have that effect on us. And I'm not suggesting making another language or anything like that, but just to realize that everything is not a thing, and not look at it that way. And sometimes I say, like, we think even like wisdom is a thing. It's written down in a book. It's in the scriptures, But really, if wisdom is a verb, it's just what's happening now. It's my presence. It's my consciousness being here and seeing what's happening without any kind of interpretation. And so then it's just to see more of life as an action, as a verb, as something I'm doing, and I can stop doing it. It's not a thing that I have to fight against, and that somehow has been an opening for me.
Great. Whatever gets you there.
Just acknowledging that and putting that on the table somehow seems important.
Well, remember, it could be important, but the really critical thing is that it's important for you. If it fills your gas tank, I mean, that's in your life, whatever ways you're approaching your consciousness and your recognition of love and your recognition of yourself, as long as it really is moving you into that experience, as long as it's moving into more and more experience of unconditional love, of recognition of that, a realization of that, then it's beautiful. If not, and then it stops to serve you. Then it's time for something else, because things don't necessarily last forever in that way. So what was of value to you yesterday might not be of value to you any longer today. So we want to be in the moment. We want to be available and have the ability to, a lot of people, just to use one example, in Japan, as of 2 weeks ago, had plans. They had ideas. They had ideas of how they were going to live the next 2 weeks, and then it doesn't always work out like that. So how do we maintain ourselves, our identity in each and every moment when all the busyness and the external activities of life work through us and work through our planet and work through. So, how do we live in every moment? How do we live in every moment with as little past and future as possible? How do we have that recognition and that flexibility on an ongoing and consistent basis? And whatever way, there are a lot of past, there always have been, and there are a lot of teachers, and there always have been. And there are a lot of concepts about words and deeds and vibrations and energies. But the important thing for each of us as individual human manifestations of the oneness is, how do we come back into that recognition? That is our service here, that to come back into that recognition. And then whatever way our external activities will take place after we come into that, or as we're coming into that, so be it. Whether it's a cave, or whether it's a television show, or a radio show, or an internet show, or video or audio, or Skype, or running a bank, or running a healthcare company, or cleaning the streets, or raising a family, those are all semi-irrelevant. It's the vibration behind them, the recognition of each of us individually of who we really are, and of our connectedness to every other being. So whatever gets you there, and to be so fine and so in every moment and so subtle that it doesn't take getting hit by a Mack truck to slow you down, to change your ideas. Because, like you were saying earlier, I mean, a lot of ideas you had before no longer hold. And, we believe in the ideas we have now, but after a certain point, you realize that these ideas will change as well.
No, that's really beautiful scene, because we were always thinking, now we understand. Before we didn't, but now we do. But what basis do we have to say that this won't change in an instant? Or in a day, or that we'll be looking back on this, or that the people that'll be looking back on us, our grandchildren will say, those guys are really primitive, but I'm glad they made it through there.
Right, and that's why we don't have to believe them.
Yeah.
The less we believe them, the less we're carrying around in our backpack, and the lighter we feel. The lighter we feel, the less weight in our backpack with our concepts, with our ideas, with our rights and wrongs, with our goods and bads, with our best or not best. The less we carry that around, and the more we're in each moment with that experience of ourselves as love, ourselves as God, ourselves as the infinite, ourselves as as an inclusive energy. I think that's really what humans want. And then what you'll end up doing, more or less, is feeling love and sharing it in whatever form it takes. And I think as a bottom line, that's what humans want to do.
Well, that's so we say that a lot, okay? And then if it's real, it should be just simple. Like, it should just be, it's here, so many people say that anyhow. So that doesn't take anything. It's really simplicity. So then just to feel the realness of our connection and the unrealness of our separation, it should be something that we, I say should, and I'm doubting a little bit if I should be saying should. But I mean, if it's real, it's right here, and then let's just have it. Let's just experience it and make it like we can't avoid it. It's unavoidable.
Well, it's like that old joke that's easy for you to say. It's like, I would look around. Is it so easy for you internally to do that? Is it so easy for all your brothers and sisters on this planet, as your family members? So in this third dimension, with maybe it will be in the next moment, but with the level of let's call it gravity, or the level of momentum, or the level of just momentum and habit of fear, of separation, of all those things, it turns out not to be so easy for most of us here. So I would say, on some level, just see it the way it is. internally and externally. Not that it's not possible, and not that it's not possible in this moment forever and never will go back, but for most of us, it doesn't turn out to be, up until this point, that easy to do or say. That's if you look at it neutrally, without wanting it to be one way or another, that this at this time on this planet, it is not that easy for people to come into the fullness of that recognition. And so maybe it will in the next moment. And in a way, you're right that it can be in any moment, like Buddha at some point under the Bodhi tree or whatever tree he was under. I forget the name. I think it was.
No, I think it was, but I mean, okay, I think we all get glimpses. Otherwise, we wouldn't be shooting for it. Because if we didn't have any idea what it was, so the glimpses are there. Now we must have a
Right.
concept that that should be permanent, and so then that concept is in a way we keep checking back. Oh, it's not permanent yet, so we're not there, and then we just keep running these,
I
putting
don't
our
think it's
attention.
conceptual. We're just not happy. We're not content. We know that there's something more.
Yeah, it's not
You know,
it's not a
so
concept, but it's somehow. Can't we go back to what we were saying when we said it was there's either anxiety or there's the absent or there's openness, and is that anxiety natural or is that something that comes by a story that we tell? Now I know it can come by a story we tell. Now whether it's only anxiety only comes from a story, or or if there's some natural part of it, that I'm not so sure. So then. At least we can kind of look at that.
I think that whatever works for you. I mean, I think that, it's just whatever works, whatever tool, is bringing you more into tune with your own peace and your own happiness and your own contentment. Keep following that until at some point it's no longer working. If you keep putting gas in your car and the car keeps running and gets you to where you want to go, great. And if at some point it's not working for one reason or another, then try something else. But
No, I got it. No, that's really a good message, and that's a good thing to put out. That just be comfortable with where you're at and go for it. And when you notice it's not right, you're fully authorized to change.
yeah, and I would say that the place you want to look is in, just to use a term, is in your heart. Are you feeling more content? Are you feeling happier? Are you feeling more that your life has true meaning, that you feel more love and you're sharing more love? And I think that can be a really good key for humans at this time. That is that true for them, and the more it's true, and if it's continuing to be true, then fine. If it's not, and you're feeling like you're in stuck, or you're not uh gaining more experience of love and oneness and connection and all that, then there are a lot of tools and a lot of teachers and a lot of ways to do it. And, there are 260 some odd bridging shows with some extraordinary people to listen to and see how they did it and how their path went for them. And so, but if what you're doing is working for you in terms of giving you more love and connection and feelings of contentment, great. Hallelujah.
No, that's perfect because it's just you're saying it shows up in your life, so don't worry about it.
Right.
You don't need any
Right.
experts to say you're there. You could just
Right.
see, and then what they say, the rubber hits the road. Where we gain traction, and that makes a very simplification. Just be good with that. I love it. Thank you, Allan.
My pleasure.
It's really been enjoyable to be with you this hour, and I thank you for giving us this time and your beautiful insight.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
So, Bridging Heaven and Earth is on the internet, and we'll put the links on there. People can look at some of your shows and just see
Great.
the wide variety of your activities and your contribution. And
Wonderful.
as long as you're on, just say a little bit about your art project, because I think that is really cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. The art project came as a dream, as a vision about 4 or 5 years ago. to reach out to the world with the vehicle that we have through the Bridging Heaven Earth show that's available all over the world on YouTube and about 150 cable stations in the United States and on satellite and Vimeo and Google Video, that anybody who wanted to manifest a new original piece based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth will show it on all the art will be featured on one of the bridging shows or the art project show. We just put up the 5th annual International Healing Art Project show. It's Bridging Heaven and Earth show number 263. So if you just go to YouTube and put in Bridging Heaven and Earth show number 263, the 5th annual art project show, it'll come up and you can watch like 25 pieces of extraordinary art with poetry and text. And so it came through that all this incredible art being manifest and all the creative process and all the collaboration of all these people all over the world will be an extraordinary healing and an acupuncture for the planet to have all the. And it's just been unbelievable. We probably at this point have probably over 250 pieces already sent to California to show on the show, and we've had art exhibits and we have a beautiful gallery studio, and it's shown on all the bridging shows, and millions of people see it, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful healing and acupuncture for the planet. And there's no skill level; it's any size, any format, any medium, any skill level. Anybody who wants to participate in the collaboration and the healing and the creativity, please join us. And you can go to the website. The art project website is so beautiful. It's called Heaven to Earth Art, www.heaven, HEAVENTO, Earth, EARTHART.com, Heaven to Earth Art. And you'll just see piece after piece from all over the world that is so powerful and so inspiring. And the more people involved, the better the healing, the more beauty will come out of it. So everyone is welcome. If you're not a professional artist, it doesn't matter. Any age, any skill level, any size, any format. So yeah, call us 805-687-2053, 805-687-2053. Go to the website Heaven to Earth Art. Go to YouTube and put in Bridging Heaven Earth Art Project shows, and 5 of them will come up. Or go to the website and go to the watch page. They're all linked and embedded from there. And so it's just an opportunity for us all to be part of some incredible acupuncture, incredible healing for the planet. And it's a real opportunity, because what we've been hearing from all the artists is, as they're part of it, they're getting extraordinarily beautiful growth experiences and experiences of being part of something, and really just getting high and feeling tremendous love and doing it. So, we encourage everybody to go to the website and become part of it. So
what a stroke of genius, just to get everyone participating and just to get everyone in, it's obvious from what you just said that they're in the flow and they're getting the results. They're getting that flow through them. And
you could do one as well, Richard. We could put you down.
Okay, I'm gonna have to
go buy your 24/7 Sharpie marker.
Yeah, right on. I have to get my wife to teach me how to paint.
Well, you could do one together. That would
be awesome. Let me ask you one final question, because you just threw out one that I didn't even know about, that you're on 150 cable stations. Well, how do we find you on cable if we're not too hep on computers? Or how did you manage that one over the years?
Yeah, over the years, started with the local cable station here, and then we'd get guests from all over, and they'd say, let me get it on my local station. And then we got a reputation, so stations who needed high quality content would contact us, and we'd send them. We used to send, I don't know if you're familiar, I don't know if you go back that far in broadcasting, but those 3/4 inch videotapes, those big, thick, heavy.
Hell, I've got about 50 of them in the other room there, these whoppers. I should run out there and get one, and show everybody. Right. And I got beta tapes and those, and then we use those other little, what do they call them, DV cams. And then some stations just take a DVD, which is cool if they'll just do that.
Yeah, more and more. But so we went from 3/4 inch to super VHS. But yeah, it was just one at a time. So if you go to heaventoearth.com, mtoearth.com, and then go to the stations page. They're all listed in order. So you can see if your city is one of the cities that shows the bridging show and at what times.
Thank you, Allan. What a beautiful knowledge that is. What a work you guys have been doing, I tell you. You're organized. I have to, I have to model myself after you.
You're doing pretty good, Richard.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for this time with you.
All right, great. So be well, and think about you and or your wife doing a piece for the art project. We'd love to have your energy as part of it.
Okay, we're going to get into it.
All right.
Okay. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right. Bye-bye there.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
I will. Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming. That's Allan over at Bridging Heaven and Earth from Santa Barbara. So it's exciting how we can get together and, we talked to another Allan in New York, Allan Steinfeld, with New Realities. So we're surrounded by Allans. It's fantastic. So thank you, and goodbye for now.